Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. Everton and Manchester United took centre stage in the Premier League as Ancelotti and Solskjaer pit their wits against each other at Goodison Park. In recent matches, both teams have looked patchy and were hoping for wins to stabilise the ship. In the end, the match ended 3-1 to United thanks to goals by Fernandes and Cavani, whilst Bernard netted for Everton. The XG indicated United created the better quality chances, ending 0.38 to 1.6. The XG time map suggested that from the start, United created better chances, and Everton struggled to create even when behind. But what tactics did both managers use? Let's take a look. A special shout out to everyone who's been able to support Football Made Simple on Patreon so far. If you want to help the channel, I'd love it if you considered supporting on patreon.com/footballmadesimple, and you'll get perks like early access to videos, exclusive content, and so much more. A quick reminder of the formations used by both sides, as seen on the OneFootball app. OneFootball will get you match updates, formation updates, as well as player and team stats, and so much more. And the best part is, you can get it absolutely free through the sponsored link in the description below. Let's first touch on what Everton looked to do in possession. Everton were not shy to go long, whether from Pickford or one of the centre-backs, due to the aerial presence of Calvert-Lewin. And his movement was key. Harry Maguire is excellent in the air, so Calvert-Lewin tended to avoid him and could pull on to one of the fullbacks and knock it down to a winger or a wider central midfielder. But more commonly, he would pull on to Lindelof, who is much weaker in the air, to isolate him and win the first ball. The stats show this trend, with Calvert-Lewin ending with a game-high 6 aerials won, Maguire's second highest with 4 aerials won, whilst Lindelof only had 2 won. And this more direct play is what led to Bernard's goal. Calvert-Lewin pulls onto Lindelof and wins the first ball, with Lindelof's touch putting it right into the path of Bernard, and he finishes expertly into the bottom corner. But Everton actually did end with the higher possession, so short build-up play was a large part of their game. This would start with the centre-backs, and Martial would push higher to press, whilst Fernandes initially looked to tie up Allen. But at times, Fernandes would pressure the second centre-back, and if he got his angles wrong, this meant that the pass into Allen was on, and he could turn and look to move the team up the pitch. However, he usually used his cover shadow well to apply pressure whilst preventing the pass. The roles of Coleman and Digne were different in trying to beat this 2 versus 2. Digne would advance much higher up the pitch, whilst Coleman stayed deep to form the third centre-back, as shown in the average positions. This would often draw Rashford out to pressure him, and Coleman was willing to take Rashford on in the first half, as by getting into the wide regions, James would then be able to move into his preferred half space. And once the ball was in the midfield region, we generally saw Bernard look to come in narrow to draw Wan-Bissaka more central. This would mean that the switch to Digne was often on, as he had the pace to get away from Mata and could get into good regions wide and attempt the cross. He ended the game with a game-high 8 crosses, including set pieces. In the second half, we saw them adapt their shape, primarily with James and Bernard switching sides, and Digne would push up the pitch early, with Sigurdsson happy to drop into the space when needed to cover, and this would allow James to drop deeper into the half space to pick up the ball, whilst Doucouré and Allen looked to attract the pivots. At times, Bernard would come over to increase the overload, meaning that James could get onto the ball here to look for the cross often. Or, if he was taken, he could then find Digne to look for the cross. When Iwobi came on, they began to utilise the side switch much more often to get him into good crossing positions on his stronger right foot, but ultimately it was to no avail. But what did United look to do in possession? For the most part, United were happy to build up short through their centre-backs, coming through the first phase relatively unchallenged as Everton didn't press particularly high. In fact, Calvert-Lewin was the only man pressuring the United centre-backs, so after they received the ball, the free man would be free to drive higher up the pitch into wider regions, usually Maguire, which gave Shaw much more room to move into higher up the pitch. This is because generally, the Everton midfield was more concerned with dealing with United's pivots. When the ball came into either of them, the wide Everton central midfielder would look to apply the pressure to prevent them playing into more dangerous regions. And this is where the 2-1 shape in the United midfield adapted. Fernandes would push into the left half space initially, and Mata would come into the right half space to create a 4 versus 3 advantage and a rough square shape in midfield, whilst Wan-Bissaka pushed higher. So now, with Everton having the numerical disadvantage, which could be exacerbated by Martial dropping deeper, the wide central midfielders had decisions to make. If they didn't move out to press Fred and McTominay, they would have time on the ball. However, if they did, men could be found between the lines, which did happen at times. So, United were generally able to cause indecision in the Everton midfield. But the left-hand side was their preferred attacking avenue, and they could adapt their shape to different situations. When Shaw was deeper, Rashford could stay wider with Fernandes in the half space, trying to draw Everton's wing back in and create space out wide. But the presence of Mata here freed up Fernandes even more than usual, as he could move across to take charge of the playmaking duties, freeing Fernandes to move wider for the overload, deep to help the build-up play, or higher up to be an offensive threat. We see shades of this in the first goal. Rashford has stayed wider, and Mata moves all the way into the left half space to draw in Coleman. And this has freed Fernandes to make the offensive move to hover on the edge of the box. Mata's position means Shaw is free in the wide regions, and he gets in an unmarked cross which Fernandes attacks. They could also opt for the more central threat. James at times, especially in recovery, would be slow to track back, meaning that Shaw had the run of the left wing and could position himself high. This allowed Rashford to move central, so United had 2 forwards, and at times Martial could drop deeper into the midfield as well. And with 2 attacking midfielders, they could either go for the wide overload or maintain their central dominance to take control of the midfield. For Fernandes' goal, we see the effect of James not tracking, as when Fernandes receives the ball, Coleman can't commit to closing him down, as he has to watch out for Shaw marauding unmarked down the left flank. Overall, despite going behind early, United looked in control for large portions of this match, and Solskjaer has pulled out another win just when he needed it. Ancelotti will be concerned with the recent poor form after playing so well in the initial stages. But what did you make of the match? Drop it down below. And a special thanks to my Patreons once again, including Ricardo Hu and Moteb Adawood, who have recently joined my Ultra tier. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.